Hey Mini enthusiasts, how you doing? And in today's episode we're going to be changing the steering wheel on Project Sprout.
Right Mini enthusiasts, special guest appearance today. We've got Mr. Toon.
How you doing?
All the way from Manchester, down south.
All the way to Brighton to change the steering wheel.
I know. So special guest appearance. Alex has never changed the steering wheel on an airbag car before. So I thought I'd give him a bit of guidance. And yeah, can do a bit of work on Project Sprout. So as you might have seen in the previous videos, I've got a new second-hand black steering wheel to replace this one that's just a little bit worn out. Alex is a little bit nervous though, because
yeah,
I think he's watched some Russian videos on YouTube about replacing airbags.
Yeah, so basically I'm hoping this doesn't go off. So I'm putting all my trust in Keith's hands, and if this airbag goes off, then there's only one person to blame.
So, you know us on Classic Mini Workshop, safety first. So we've actually printed off the instructions from Rover just to be absolutely sure. And to be fair, the instructions from Rover are probably not quite as conservative as I would be. So if you're ever going to do this on your own car, even if it's a Mini, make sure you're following the instructions first. Don't take my instructions for granted. Yeah, most cars, you'd probably disconnect the battery for a good few hours before you do anything on the car, and there's any sort of work on the SRS system, never use like an old type test light or anything like that, because they can carry a bit of amperage and current, and you can actually set off an airbag. So you want to be using a digital multimeter if you're doing any testing. So it says to disconnect the battery for 10 minutes. We've done that. Battery's been disconnected for probably 20 odd minutes now. In the previous video you might have seen I mentioned we've disconnected the SRS control unit, so there is no power in the system at all, and aside from that there are some precautions to take when storing the airbag afterwards and that sort of thing. It doesn't actually say these airbags are lifed. I haven't looked too hard in the manual, but it's usually about 10-15 years, so this one's old. It's well over its replacement period. I don't want to worry you, Alex, but it's
like
pretty.
Talcum powder in the glass.
So it's pretty straightforward. There are two, might be three. No, there are two Pt.13 screws which go up the back of the steering wheel, and they hold the airbag module into the car. You should really replace those bolts when you fit a new airbag module, and they need torquing up to 7 Newton meters. But I'll let Alex crack on. So yeah, if you want to take out the two screws, Alex, don't worry, it won't go off. Got it in the hole?
Yeah, got it in the hole. First time. I assume they're pretty long, them screws.
Yeah. Right, there we go.
There's one. Fortunately got a small thread on it.
Yeah, small thread, and looks like they've got some thread lock on them as well. So again, I don't know whether they're stretch bolts. Probably recommend replacing them, but they definitely want some thread lock when you go back together with them. Put them in a safe place, which means I'll lose them.
So if this airbag was to go off, it'd already go off now, wouldn't it?
No, it'll go off in a minute.
As soon as the second one's out.
When we fiddle around with the electrical connection on the back of the airbags. That's the dodgy bit. Taking the screws out is fine.
It's not that bad actually.
There we go. So before you do that, so when you pull that airbag forward, there should be a yellow plug connector on the back of it, on the inside, and that just needs unclipping. So generally you just squeeze them together and pull it apart, but you put it forward in a moment and I'll probably give you a hand to disconnect the connector. Before we actually take the steering wheel off, we need to undo the nut that's behind there. But just a point to note for you, especially on an airbag car, is the spiral cable behind the back needs to be set in a certain position. So you want to be putting the steering wheel back on the position, exactly the same position you took it off. If you take the wheel off and then rotate it and put the wheel back on, chances are you'll wreck the spiral cable behind. So yeah, set it in the straight ahead position and then don't move the column or steering wheel.
I think that's steering lock.
Once you've got it off. Is it on?
I think it's steering lock's pretty much on.
Or put the steering lock
I've
on.
already preset that.
Toonie's top tip there, put the steering lock on and then it can't move. Right, so this should pull forward now.
The whole
no, the centre part. So you might have to give it a bit of a wiggle.
If I lean back now, you won't get me.
And on the back of there is the cable. So what I'd recommend actually is if, just to be on the safe side, I'd just hold the back there like that, so your fingers are not over the front. And then point it away from you. It's not going to be a problem. And then disconnect the cable on the back. And then always keep it facing away from your face. So that's the back. Keep it away from you.
So we'll put that outside now.
I ain't worried. And then whenever you store it, never store it face down like that, because if it goes off, it's going to launch it up in the air. Whereas if it's that way round and it goes off, it's just going to inflate like a balloon, but very, very quickly. Don't put it underneath things either. Have you seen the Russian videos where they put in some tyres and shoot the thing? Don't fancy doing that, do you?
I was like...
It'd make for a good YouTube video.
Put a clip in of one of them guys sat on that seat and then they're not laughing at.
There are actually, quite seriously, there's loads of... This is an explosive device now, so that has an explosive charge in it. So if you flash this with static electricity, that airbag could go off. So you need to store it in the correct conditions, which is in a locked container. It needs to be in a place that doesn't get cold and damp and that sort of thing. So obviously I'll have that perfect environment here.
Perfect.
So I'll just put that away.
I think Mr. Draper is here.
Oh, it's Mr. Draper.
Mr. Draper. Special guest number 2. All right, my son. Please don't swear. Camera's rolling.
Was it?
I do, mate. You all right?
Yeah.
We're in the middle of
Mr. Toon's filming a video.
That's right.
Gonna want a big bath for this, isn't you?
How many Newton meters will that be set at? In fact, I don't know.
I think
3 Ugga Duggers. 4 Ugga Duggers. You're going on track.
Right, so is that on there? It does?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Right, I'll just come round then. Right, so what size socket is that actually? Can you see? Because we've just noticed this is a different size socket to a normal Mini.
3/4 inch.
So it's a 3/4 inch nut on there, so nut behind the steering wheel. And what you need to do here is not just undo it with it on the steering lock, because if you just go to undo it, you'll probably break the steering lock. So you need to apply as much down pressure as you're applying up pressure, and it should come loose. It'll be quite tight though. Oh, look at that, strong arms, strong arms.
Muscles.
Right, I'll grab you a more suitable socket now.
Take some of that off there.
Teamwork.
So
There you
my
go.
project's scrapped them by the end of the video.
Right, there's a little trick here, another Toony top tip, and this stops you getting smashed in the face with a steering wheel in a minute. Because we've all done it once.
I've done it. Got to decathlon and get a gum shield.
So take the nut all the way off, and then screw it back on about 4 or 5 turns. And then what you need to do, because that is a bit of a tapered fit on the spline, so they don't usually come off easily. Now this is going to sound horrible. I'd usually say push your legs into the floor.
I don't know. I'll end up pulling.
Oh look, it's loose. All right, okay. So they're not
extra strong.
They're not always that easy, but if you're extra strong like Alex, it's not a problem
That
at all.
literally was mega loose. I
Yeah.
hardly even pulled it.
That's it. So take off the middle nut.
Don't know your hamstring.
Steering wheel off. You need to poke the cables through the mid. Oh, go back on. Sorry.
I think there's a horn there.
Yeah, there's a horn. So go back through and on, and then there'll be a connector. Yeah. So the connectors for the 2 horn buttons. Yeah, look at that, Pro.
And then
Feed that through the middle.
How easy is that?
Excellent. That was simple, wasn't it?
So you got a new steering wheel?
Yeah. So anything we need to observe in there? Not really.
Needs cleaning.
Needs cleaning. I'll do that afterwards. I'll take it all apart again, just to clean it. So we just have a look, make sure they look the same. Looks good, doesn't it? I think you can actually fit an MGF wheel on a Mini. They're slightly different in shape, but this one should be a proper Mini one. So there you go, sort of side by side. I'm going to have a go at refurbishing this one. I've got some leather dye already, so
Magic eraser.
that one's just much neater and tidier.
I like black.
So airbag wire through first.
Not locating in that back there, is it? There must be a slot in there. Yeah, it's sitting in that slot.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
Excellent.
straight as well.
Right, middle nut on.
Well, it's not a washer on there.
Yeah. It is a nylock
Oh,
nut,
yeah.
isn't it? So
How many Ugga Duggers?
I think it's about 3.5 Ugga Duggers. And then do that up till you get the click click.
41 to 50
What's that?
Newton meters.
Steering wheel.
Yeah.
How many?
But that'll be we've got a sign with a torque on up there. It says
Steering wheel nut.
41 to 50.
44.1 to 50 Newton meters.
Oh really? Right, let's go with that then.
Jesus Christ. Swinging off that.
Although I might just double check that because that'll be for an older Mini, I think.
If we're wrong, we'll
Yeah.
redo it.
We'll redo it. That's it.
You just wait for it to click, don't you?
Yeah.
Or do as I do and just keep clicking it.
It should have clicked. It should have clicked.
That's well tighter than what it was when I unscrewed it.
Yeah, hang on. Might have a technical issue with the torque wrench.
No one's getting this steering wheel off.
That should have clicked by then.
There we go.
So let me slacken it off again. Which that was?
44 to 50.
Right, we'll go 50 then. I might have had it set on about 60.
I always find that they're not clear enough.
There you go.
There we go, so that's gone. Right, next bit's probably the most dangerous bit of all of it. So we're going to connect the airbag back up. So if there's any static charge in that wire.
So do the horn first, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's your crash over?
So when you're doing this, wind your seat back a little bit.
Right, So yeah, I'll let you do the honours.
Actually, let me do the dangerous bit. Oh, I'm dead nervous now.
Bang!
I nearly did that to you when you disconnected it, but I thought, no, we're on camera, let's behave ourselves. I don't know.
Right, you're safe. You clicking?
Yeah, it's
That's
clicked.
good. Right, so
Stand by, stand by.
you've got to make sure that fits down in there. That in there.
Don't
Right.
tap it too hard.
I just need to put some thread lock on these screws now.
I'm Trisha, eh?
I nearly did, like I said, I nearly did it to him when he was taking it up, but I thought, no, I'll behave myself. He's a bit more professional on his YouTube than what I am.
Oh! Sorry to
No,
get you as well.
alright, mate.
Got a bit overexcited. Do you reckon you can get that in there? 7 Newton meters as well.
A bit of trouble finding you.
All looped up, slip right in.
Right, emergency situation on the garage floor. Done that already?
The OCD is real.
OCD is real.
Smells nice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, come see my garage in. Jesus.
So yeah, thread lock on these screws, and now Mr. Toon's wrist is calibrated to exactly 7 Newton
7
meters.
Newton meters,
Yeah.
which is 2.5 ugly duckers.
Yeah. Click, click.
That's it. Click, click. You heard it then, didn't you? There we go. Job done.
There we go. Job done. So
Easy
we'll
as that.
reconnect the SRS ECU first, and then we'll disconnect the battery, and then we just need to do it. It will do a self-system check anyway, so the SRS system will self-check itself. Make sure the light comes on and then goes off, and then happy days, we're all done.
But before we connect it up, I'm getting out. Just in case.
Right then, that's the steering wheel in. Are we brave enough to turn the ignition on?
There we go.
Right, yeah. So, key in, we just want to...
Lean to the side.
SRS light should come on and go out, and it's not going out because I haven't got the pre-tensioners plugged in actually, so the system will still be disabled. So, a bit pointless. It didn't go off anyway, so good job, Toonie.